Welcome back, everybody.
Mhm.
We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back.
And we're
We're
back.
back. Season 2 of Beauty and the Break.
Mhm.
It's
Oh,
here.
man.
We're here.
We're here, and so are you listening. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are in a comfortable, calm, peaceful place.
This is going to be fun. I'm so excited about this episode. Gosh, there has been a lot going on lately.
Dude.
So much.
Dude.
In our personal lives, in the world, and in our personal lives.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate you because you got the residency at Den Meditation.
Thank you. Yes, I did. As a
Mhm.
matter of fact, there is a meditation company that is quite known in Los Angeles that does meditation classes, does meditation for businesses, does them online. And I got brought on board to do Zoom meditations for their company on Mondays
Mhm.
at 8:30 in the morning, West Coast time. However, the best part about this, in my opinion, is that if you buy the class, you can watch that Zoom anytime you'd like.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, they have an unlimited membership too and all kinds of things like that. But it's very exciting. And you get to do your growth mindfulness meditations with
Mhm.
people, which has been very well received.
It's been quite well received, excuse me. It's been quite well received. Tongue twisters. I do meditation. I don't do linguistics. There is so much that I've learned from this in a multitude of ways. The growth mindfulness is a way to get you more centered in your body and your mind. So then when you go out into the world, you have these tools that I give you at the end that you can use when you're working or living with your family and so on and so on. So I'm really honored that they saw my creation and said yes to that.
Yeah, that's a really big
And
honor.
it's Den meditation, DEN meditation.
Yeah, we can put a link in the show notes.
Oh, true. Right.
But yeah, congrats. You have lots of different meditation classes now.
Yeah.
And it's just like growing and growing. So I'm really happy for you, baby.
Thanks, dog.
Yeah. And today I've wanted to talk about this like for so long on the show.
I think in the beginning, when we were first naming episodes that we could do, this was probably your first 3 that you mentioned.
Yep. Because I love when we talk. So we're going to talk about psychedelics.
Yeah, say that. See it
In
better.
particular,
Mhm.
mushrooms
Yeah.
has been our experience with psychedelics. You always give a story about how you got started. I always get the late bloomer story about how I came to mushrooms much later in my life. But both are very palpable and deeply affected, for me, has deeply affected my entire perspective on the world, the universe, humanity, being here on this earth. It's been incredible. So
Yeah, I feel a little validated that we live in a time now where everyone's talking about it and there's studies about it as well. I was a participant in one of the surveys for a college in Vancouver
oh, that's right.
for microdosing. And Johns Hopkins has done a lot of work in Berkeley and UCLA. I feel really vindicated, I should say, because when I was 14 was the first time I did mushrooms.
Mhm.
I remember I had this magazine I found. I don't remember how I got it, but I had it. And it had a list of all of the drugs on it, the unhealthy ones and these psychedelics as well. I remember reading the one about mushrooms, and it told you like what it was and how it'd been used in history. And there's all these religions that do it and all this iconography. And something about that resonated with me. And I said, that's the one I want to do. Now, I also want to say that I am not telling somebody to allow their 14-year-old to do psychedelics. But I did. Not optimal, but it is what happened. I got a bunch of these mushrooms from Gainesville, Florida, because I lived in Jacksonville, Florida, and Gainesville was like a farm area. You could pick up a lot of mushrooms off cow patties. And this kid and I, who's my age, we planned on doing these mushrooms. I'll never forget this part because we started taking them together. We took them on a Saturday. My mom was at work. She's going to love hearing this. I made some tea, and then I put the tea away. So when my mom came back and went to sleep, he and I would drink the tea. We're drinking the tea. It's like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night or something. And I started to feel like giddy and strange and weird and whatever. And then the friend of mine started getting very giddy and very silly. And it took maybe an hour for me to realize something deeper was going on here. Something that's not just, let's just have fun, like 2 kids sipping beer from the fridge and refilling the beer can with soda or whatever, you know. But I could recognize that he wasn't having that same awareness of it. He was just being silly. So I made a note to myself. I'm going to hang out with him until he crashes. And then I'm going to see what's going on here. And that's what happened. I
Mhm.
remember at some point he just passed out. And in my brain, I legitimately went, okay, what's going on here? Because something was hitting me at a level that I could not put words to. I mean, there's grown adults who can't put words to it, let alone a 14-year-old who can't put
Sure.
words to it.
Yeah.
So I take these mushrooms, I'm 14 years old, and I have this massive epiphany,
Mm.
and I can't put any words to it. Now, lo and behold, at this part of my life and all the stuff that I read, I realize, oh, you're right on point to what you need to be doing because the Upanishads say, he who doesn't know, knows. He who says he knows, doesn't know.
Mhm.
And I had no idea what was going on, right? And I sit with that the whole night in this feeling, and I'm purposefully not using descriptions of it now. So you listening, you in this mystery listening to this, not being able to understand what I'm saying, you're closer to how I felt at that time.
Unless you've done mushrooms, and then maybe you
And
do know.
then and then you're yeah, and then you're nodding your head a lot
Uh-huh,
right now.
uh-huh.
You're like, mm-hmm. And I use this word purposefully. It raptured me. From my body to my mind to my spirit, everything. And somehow everything made sense. And I felt a part of everything. There was a giant yes about everything. Everything was just felt like yes. As a matter of fact, yes.
Mhm.
Whatever I was watching on TV, whatever I felt, good, bad, neutral, it transcended all of those. And all of it was just a participation in it. I remember I ended up getting some more mushrooms after that. And somewhere about a month later or so, I had to do them by myself
Mhm.
for obvious reasons. And I did it with just that intention. First thing first, you start taking mushrooms and the walls start doing what's called breathing.
Mhm.
They kind of pulsate in and out. I was laying on my back and I had a blanket on my knees, and just the depth perception changed, and it felt like that my chest was the road leading to the mountains that were my knees because the knees were raised. I had to remember that no, this is my body. I wasn't on the. And then I went to my room and put some headphones on and put on music. And every single song, it all was perfect the way it was.
Yeah.
I started crying for these songs. Not because it was, I understand the song. It's, no, this song is perfect right here, right now. And that epiphany just skyrocketed me. But I didn't know what to do with it. I was also a black kid in the South. And everybody I knew was, especially they were black, they were like, what are you doing? We smoke weed around here, homeboy.
Yeah, right.
We drank around here. What you talking about? But I knew something was there. And I held on to that until I got older.
I literally have a note right here in my notebook from the one of the times that I did mushrooms, and it says, "Literally everything is beautiful and perfect exactly the way it is."
Yeah. Yep.
And you're describing exactly the same
Precisely.
thing. And this is
Precisely.
decades apart.
And it goes even further because there are whole cultures who take these psychedelics and talk about the same exact feeling that have no connection to each other, that have the same feeling. People smoke weed, they act differently. They drink, they act differently. They do other substances, they act differently. This one somehow has been a constant feeling for diverse cultures. Now, some people, of course, have problems with it as well. So I'm not saying that it's perfect for any and every person, nor am I suggesting anybody should take it. But to say something so abundantly clear from a 14-year-old to a, what were you, 40?
Mhm.
40-year-old,
38 something.
38.
Yeah.
There's something deeper there.
Mhm.
I have so much more to share, but I want to know a little more about that part for you, that
Yeah, yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
and more if you wanna
Yeah.
say.
Well, needless to say, if you know me at all or if you've listened to the show at all, you could probably guess that I did not do mushrooms at 14. Oh, didn't even drink at 14. So, no, I don't think any time in my life up until about 37, 38, I don't think I was ready for mushrooms.
Did you know what they were?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I was never someone who was into substances. I was never someone who liked the feeling of being out of control.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense that I'm sober now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that I wasn't ready. And there's a lot of different reasons to do mushrooms and a lot of different intentions that people can have. But I finally felt like I was in a spiritually I was circling spirituality in some way that I felt for me, I had an understanding of the universe in some vague sense that was bigger than what I had ever believed before. And that had to do with years of reading books and listening to podcasts and listening to tapes and trying to pull apart from all of these different texts what I felt was true to me and felt like this person was saying the same thing as this person was saying the same thing as this. And that all makes sense to me. And that is what I believe, right?
Right.
I didn't have a sense of my own spirituality before. So, mushrooms, I felt ready to take mushrooms with a friend of mine. We went up to our cabin and she was kind of like my guide. She didn't dose like I did. Microdosed, but just to kind of get on the same wavelength. I had microdosed before.
Mhm.
Never really affected me much. A lot of people like microdosing mushrooms. I didn't really have that. It just did never, I've done it multiple times and it's just never fit for me for some
It
reason.
it's interesting how that works, and I think sometimes you don't know what you're searching for if you have only had a small amount of it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's some of that, perhaps.
Yeah.
You take a lot and then you take a little bit, you're like, "Oh, I know what is and what isn't here. I know what I'm feeling and what I'm not feeling here,"
Yeah.
because you've had so much. But if you just take a little bit, I don't know if you'll recognize the differences.
Yeah. I knew I wanted to. It was a leap of faith to do so because I don't like feeling out of control. And I knew there was some element of that, but I really trusted my friend. She had done a lot of mushrooms before, intentionally for healing purposes, to kind of purge some things, to release a lot of things. I didn't feel like I had a lot to purge, but I did feel like I needed to understand more of something. I did have some fear about it for sure. The first takeaway that I had was I understood my children in a new way.
Hmm.
Started seeing the world around me in such a playful, beautiful way. The tropes are true. If you're on psychedelics, you could just look at a tennis ball for like 2 hours because there's so much you can see so much more. All of your receptors are on, right? More you could talk about more about this,
You're
about
right, actually, yeah.
receptors
Thanks
in
for
your
reminding me of
brain.
that. Yep. Yeah, that's a
But
whole image about that online that you can see.
But like more of your receptors are online. So if I'm just looking at a boring old tennis ball that like normally I wouldn't give it 2 seconds, like I could find so much detail, nuance, beauty in this tennis ball. But I happened to be in the mountains with this gorgeous view. So I was
Oh
just
gosh.
like,
Right.
it was like I was luxuriating in the beauty of nature. I didn't want to take in too much at once. It was like I just wanted to focus on that one tree and how many layers of colors were in that tree and how beautiful it was. And I remember I laid for like the first hour and then I sat up off the daybed to see the view. And it was like, holy fuck, like everything was so
Yeah.
intense and
Yeah.
beautiful. But the reason I understood my children better was because I think children are so much closer to where they came from because they haven't been on this earth that long
In this iteration.
in this iteration,
Depending on who you're asking,
for
in
sure.
this iteration.
They just came from whatever came before this. And in my opinion, it's, some other place. And this world in which I was in was almost like that place beyond.
No.
And I think that children see the intricacies and the beauty and the wonder of the world so much clearer and so much easier than we do. Sometimes our youngest, will get up in the morning, say nothing, sit at their little spot at the breakfast table and stare out the window for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, I get it now. I know what you're doing. I
No.
know what you're looking at. I remember laughing because I was like, at the time, one of our kids was building a fort underneath the dining room table and building this intricate maze of roads and things for their toys, whatever, this whole thing. I would be like, come to dinner, come to dinner. And when I was tripping, I was like, oh, that's laughable for me to ask them to come to dinner at this time. They are immersed in
Yeah.
this world. They
Yeah.
never want to leave the tennis ball. They're just in the beauty of it. And so, gosh, I took that with me. I see it all the time still years later that when they become raptured in something and I remember that like I have that ability too.
Yeah. Because it's you and I talking and we're using these words like everything and all and beautiful and this and that, it comes across as if maybe we're being like hippy dippy
Mhm.
or it's all roses. It's not necessarily just that, it's the simpleness of things as well, even the bad things also. But what's deeper than that, in my opinion, is that, and I'm going to skip way ahead here, when I got spiritual, and deeper than that, actually, beyond spirituality, when I started reading the Upanishads, which is a old Vedic text from about 5 to 10,000 years ago, they're talking about these things.
Yeah.
These old texts are saying these things in metaphors over and over again. And then they have things like non-duality, which means all things in this world are actually not made of anything separate. It's not even one because that's an end. It's just not separate, which is hard to wrap your mind around. And these swamis and also a lot of Tibetan monks are now talking with quantum physicists because they're saying the same thing about string theory and quantum entanglement. When I started reading those texts, it gave me words for that mystery that I did not understand when I was taking mushrooms at 14 years old.
Mhm.
When I started reading the Upanishads, when I started meditating, when I started reading a lot of the phrases like shunyata in Tibetan Buddhism, it reminded me of all the things that I felt and intellectually could process at 14 years old while doing mushrooms, but I couldn't put to words. So it's so beyond just taking mushrooms and then everything is beautiful. It's
Mm.
all the things. That's why that whole Eastern culture has the yin and the yang, because it's the realization of the duality of life, good and bad. And the moment you recognize that they all work together because they aren't two, is when everything opens up for you. And I think what I've gathered is these meditations and these spiritual practices, it's like raking the leaves
Mhm.
off your front yard. But then mushrooms is like a leaf blower.
Yeah.
And it just expedites what you're doing there.
It's a supercharger.
Yeah.
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 That's why I felt like I needed to be I was glad I was in the place I was when I did it for the first time.
Right.
How I would describe it is everything I read and I understood cerebrally, and I was like, this is what I believe. This
Mhm.
is how I feel that this, the world exists, and this is how the world operates, the universe and the beyond and all of that. That's kind of what I think. It then became informed in my whole body, and my whole body understood it and was like, yes, it's a knowing. Now I know. Now I have this sort of confirmation because I felt it. I felt it in the what the plant does to you. I felt all of what's there, all of these receptors online, right? If we were on mushrooms all the time, no one would get anything done. So it's
Yes.
like we can't live in that world all the time.
Yes. Yes. But there's a few things for that. One, getting things done is a construct to our society, right? It's to our animalistic behavior, right? So, two things, which is here's the duality again. Because you're right, if we all did it, we would be spacey and we'd go place and we'd question all the things and we would have a society that would look much different.
Very.
It wouldn't be as structured and industrialized as we have here. And, not but, there are so many theories, like the Stone Ape theory, that says that some of the leaders of tribes and their shamans would take these psychedelics to see beyond the modern and current boundaries of their times, the barriers of their times.
Yeah.
And they were able to break through that. Because mushrooms, and there's studies for this now, and there's examples and polls and surveys for all this stuff. Mushrooms has been known to do what's called ego death.
Right.
It's taking your ego and diminishing it. An ego is what tells you what is and what isn't, the two different things, and it puts boundaries up. When you break that through, you can see things clearer. It's also been shown to help people induce more compassion.
Mhm.
All of the best leaders in our time, since the beginning of human nature, the best leaders, the most productive and efficient leaders, have been brave and compassionate.
Mhm.
The bravery stops the compassionate from making you a doormat, and the compassion stops the bravery from becoming arrogant.
Mm.
And mushrooms do that for you.
Mhm.
You find a place in yourself to want to do anything and also understand that there's a oneness here.
Mhm.
And that yin and yang sits with you in your life. Now, most importantly, I forget how I got on this point.
You want to talk about a little bit about what The science behind it and what it's doing
Yeah.
to your brain? Because you really gave this, you told us this once, and I just found it really fascinating.
It's nuts. And we will put it up on maybe the show notes
Mhm.
or on social media or on our Instagram. There's a multitude of studies, and I'll try to go through this as quickly as I possibly can because I, again, feel very vindicated for it. Ironically, I spent so much time doing mushrooms in my teens and early 20s that now I'm like, I'm good. And then society is doing it. I'm like, yes, come on, guys. It's great over here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have any. No thanks for me.
Yeah.
Maybe once in a while, but I'm good. A few things. One, there is, and you can look this up online and just look up psychedelics, brain neurons, placebo, and then you'll see these two circles. Both circles are really colorful. One circle has these 15 to 20 lines going from one end of the circle to the next, and those are representative of about, don't quote me on this, about 1 million neurological communications happening from one dot to the next. So if there's 20 of them, then you have that much, whatever that math comes out to. And that's the placebo effect, people who have told they were taking mushrooms. And in the other circle is ones who actually took it. And there's about 200 lines going from one end to the next. It is so much. And also, you have areas that previously weren't communicating with each other. So it's
Mhm.
not just more in the regular conversation, but it's more happening in places that weren't communicating otherwise.
Mhm.
That opens you up to seeing things clearer in the world, to see obstacles from a more dynamic perspective, to overcome those obstacles, to overcome situations, to see your own self better. It just goes on and on and on.
Maybe break down some barriers in
Maybe
your own
break
life.
down some barriers in your own life, especially
Yeah.
if you have an ego death. You
Right.
start to realize that all the things you believe, all the things you've been told are constructs and they work temporarily, but they were made up.
Mhm.
We made them up. We
Mhm.
made up every single thing that we have in this industrial society, from traffic to taxes to baseball, you name it. And it's very enjoyable because look at how chill we are. We don't got to worry about a tiger biting our ass or anything like that, but it is made up.
Mhm.
What's more important than that is our conscious awareness of it all. We can participate and play in this. This image right here of Shiva,
Mhm.
which is behind me, is the personification of dancing in the ring of fire that is life. Because in life, there are things that are dissatisfactory.
Mhm.
But to go back to these studies, they showed those neurological studies. There was another one, and they had a group of people do these psychedelic tests. A small percentage of them came out and said, that was the worst experience of my life. I don't ever want to do it again. The other percentage said this was one of the best experiences of my life. My whole life is different now. Those scientists went back a year later and interviewed all of them. The ones who said they had the worst experience said it didn't change my life at all. I just don't ever want to do it again. The ones who did have the mind-blowing experience has said my life has changed nothing but the better.
Mm.
And then they went and interviewed their coworkers and their family and their friends, and they said, I noticed a difference in them as well.
Wow.
Now, of course, they did it with them under surveillance, with therapy, and on a controlled environment, and being aware that you should or shouldn't do it.
Mhm.
But my gosh, Johns Hopkins and the professor Roland Griffiths, who passed away recently, has done studies for decades on this, and has found that it's helped people reduce alcoholic addiction.
Mhm.
It has helped people with terminal cancer accept their finality in this
Mhm.
life here
Mm.
because they feel the bigger picture of who they are. It's helped people with depression as well. Some people have taken them a psychedelic journey and had therapy and went off of their antidepressants for a year.
Mhm.
These things are showing up in this day and age in 2026, and I think it's absolutely beautiful for it.
Mhm.
And so you and I are talking, I'm going to come back to it, about how beautiful this thing is and this and that. Well, now we have the data for it.
Yeah.
Not to mention 5 to
Thank
10,000
God.
years before a whole 100+ books were talking about this experience without the mushroom.
Mhm.
And all of them are just tying together to break us through what we think we should or shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Whew.
I
I
know
was
you.
working hard over here to
Yeah.
keep that thing short.
You have a lot of data on this. I've seen you give like a whole presentation impromptu to a group of people that
Impromptu.
didn't know they were getting a presentation on mushrooms. But the image of that study is still in my brain, and we will post it on our social
Yeah.
media because it's a really powerful image just to look at and to be like, oh, I see how many more receptors in my brain are now online
Mhm.
during this experience. And what I have loved about mushrooms is that I didn't need a ton of experience with it. I've done it twice. I'll probably do it again, but once I do it, I'm like, I'm good for a while, a
Mm-hmm.
year at least. If I, I'm also totally fine never doing it again because I remember so much of what I learned while I was taking that journey. It's not something like with alcohol, you black out, you forget, and oh,
Right.
that was fun, and now I'm regretting it. It's like it stayed with me, and there are lessons that I keep coming back to. The second time that I learned a lot the first time. The second time I did mushrooms was with you. I actually got up the next morning and wrote down all of the things that I remembered and that I learned, and I pulled it up yesterday when
Oh,
I was prepping.
nice. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. I'm so glad you didn't tell me you were going to do that.
I prepped when I was
Fantastic.
prepping. I wish I'd done it with the first time because I can only recall a few of the things, the big things, but I have pages and pages of things that I didn't even remember really
Wow.
until I went back and revisited it.
Have you read it just now before we
Yeah, I
were
read it
taping this? You
yesterday.
have read it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
So it starts with the words "a trip home." And that was something you said to me because you said, I said, "Are you excited to do mushrooms?" Like before we did, "Are you excited?" Because you've done it so much. And you said, "Oh, it's like seeing an old friend. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing my old friend again." And I was like, I don't really who? Like who are you talking about? And as soon as everything kicked in, it was like 30 minutes into taking them, I went, "Oh, right, this is home.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a home like I miss it when I'm not here. It's just this is where I came from." And every bit of nature was speaking to me, not all at the same time. It wasn't like overwhelming or anything, but everybody, the trees,
Every being.
every being
Yeah.
had this deeply grounded, authentic, calm energy. It wasn't coming to me in words, but it was coming to me just in this knowing in my body of what that tree wanted me to know. The words I wrote down, the first words I wrote down after like the title, which was a trip home, was "This here is everything."
Hmm.
And at the time, I was dealing with so much of a like brain that wouldn't stop working. I had recently discovered I had ADHD. I had recently aware of my mind just kind of spinning out over all the choices I had and overwhelm and the fear that I was doing something wrong, that I was missing. I still feel this way sometimes. Like, am I missing the cues of the universe? Like, trying to get me to go somewhere? Am I missing something? What am I missing? Am I doing it wrong? Am I doing anything right? And this knowing from the beyond, from the space that I was in there, said to me, exactly, everything is exactly the way it needs to be. Everything is beautiful. Everything is perfect. You can look over there at that mountain, and that's perfect. And you can look over here at the wall, and that's equally perfect. There's no wrong choices. Nothing is wrong. Everything is perfect. And this here is everything. I don't even know why that's what I wrote down, but I just was like, don't forget that. This here is everything. Is everything in this one moment. In this present moment, everything exists.
Hmm. I could feel it in your body language and I could hear it in your voice when we were having that journey together.
Mhm.
You, there was a, if you could have a newborn baby just be put right into the body of an adult, so they can have words and experiences, you were like that. You were pleasantly flabbergasted by everything.
Mhm.
You were just like, what? Whoa, what is this? And is this how this feels? And you were curious and like, oh, I love that color there. That's like a hot pastel. And like you said all these like really you said hot pastel.
Yeah,
Don't chuckle at me
I
because I
know.
made a joke out of it afterward.
Yeah.
It was very like you started describing these things and these moments and your thought process. And we got to a point where we took that same day bed that you talked about previously and we put it up to the railing at the end of the deck,
Mhm.
and we propped our show arms up on the deck and put our chins on our wrists like how kids do when they're like
Yeah,
watching TV or
that's right.
something. And we sat there for an hour at least, just talking, just
Mhm.
being joyful at the participation of this world,
Mhm.
good or bad.
Mhm.
because we went into the kitchen afterwards and had conversations about things that we don't agree with in the world, and
Mhm.
how fascinating that it's still showing up in this world, and how fascinating that somebody can, or some bodies can do things that are divisive and still tap into something as good as somebody can tap into something that's good.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty there of recognizing the participation and the sorrows of the world.
Mhm.
And I could feel you tapping into that so much
Mhm.
that day and that evening.
I felt like I was a part of the universe who was watching humanity and life happen. I was gonna say I felt like God, but that's not really what
Mhm.
I mean. I don't mean like I felt powerful.
Mhm.
I felt like how a God, a universe, the higher power, source, how that being, that entity would feel about us as
Mhm.
humans.
Mhm.
It was like, oh, darling, like, don't worry. Everything's perfect. You know what's even perfect? You're worrying.
Yeah,
Your worrying is perfect.
precisely.
You're so cute.
That's
You're
precisely.
so adorable in your little humanness, in your
Mhm.
human body, in your human like concerns. Like, oh gosh, everything's perfect, but like I don't even need to tell you to do anything differently because how you're acting is exactly how you should be acting.
Right.
We saw quails walk by.
Yes. Well, we saw a lot of birds flying by. Birds were
Yeah.
flying by like crazy.
Yeah.
And then those two quails just strolled by.
Strolled
And
by.
it was
It was
comically romantic and precious all in one.
it's like the folly. It was the folly of life.
Mhm.
Just their characters, the characters of these animals, but I likened it out to all humans in the world.
Precisely.
I came back to LA and was like, look at people.
Look at this thing. Look
Look
at this
at
thing doing it again.
look at these
Look at this
people.
person angry. Look at them doing it again. My gosh.
Yeah.
And also, look at me. I'm being
And I'm
angry.
that too.
I'm
Yeah.
also that as well.
Mhm.
That sort of, you know what else is beautiful? Your worriedness is is in the smiles that I would see in monks that I would talk to.
Right. Oh,
Buddhist
right.
monks. Monks in particular, especially Tibetan monks. You bring them anything and they just start smiling at it. And it's not a smile like they're happy. That they're happy that you're suffering. There's a smile of like, oh, there it is again.
Mhm.
There it is again. And in certain elderly people, like the ones who have lived a life, you can watch them hear a story and they're like, wow,
Yeah.
good or bad. There's some deeper knowing of this is life.
Yeah.
This is the existence that we have. This human experience, as dark and as light as it can be, is precious and beautiful.
Can you tell us the story about the monk who got COVID or that you had
Oh yeah,
COVID?
that's right. So I got taught a lot of Buddhism by this Tibetan monk. And he is in the same temple as His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Tibetan monks are like monkeys. They're so silly. They're
Mhm.
wild. There's videos of them playing basketball and laughing at each other if they trip and fall. They're just wild. He and I would go on a Zoom call, and they are 13 and a half hours ahead, which I never understood what
That's
that's
so
about.
weird.
Try to have a phone call. Try to set a time for 11:45 p.m. with them and see how that works. This was in 2020. We get on the call. I have COVID. And this is before vaccinations, before anything. I get on the call. I go, hey, how's it going? He goes, hello. And his very thick accent, he barely speaks English. And I said, I have COVID. And he goes, right. And I was like, you motherfucker, what did you just, are you laughing at, And he wasn't laughing at me. He was just, oh, here it shows up again.
Yeah.
Here we are again. And fast forward to I worked with him for a while, and of course, meditation and all these things, which what I'm saying is that the meditation made me realize those things just like mushrooms do, just in a slower pace. I have people in my life now, they'll come to me with their stresses. Can you believe that? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I can believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I can believe that. Yep,
Yeah.
sure can. He was hilarious. He also screened His Holiness the Dalai Lama's phone call once. He's got a direct foot line to the Dalai Lama. Direct. And he told me this story. He was teaching a student one-on-one on Zoom. And a couple days before, he told the Dalai Lama, there is a cream at the market down the way that can help with the bottom of your feet because His Holiness walks around barefoot quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Tempa, Geshe-la Tempa, as I should be saying his name, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He is talking to his student, And there's a phone call that comes up, and it's His Holiness. And he looks at it, and he declines the call. Who declines His Holiness's call? Then he finishes the conversation. The next day, they're during lunch after their meditations. And he says His Holiness walks up to him and says, "Hey, I was at the market. I was trying to find that cream for my feet. And I called you." And he goes, "Oh, I must have just not got it."
He
I'm like,
lied.
you lied to His Holiness, the Dalai Lama? And he just
Dude.
laughed it away.
Oh my God.
Laughed it away. And I go, well, that's lying is a part of a Buddhist precept. He's like, well, it's actually, and I'm paraphrasing, he goes, it's lying about what feats you've had in your life about meditation. And I go, okay, you're going to teach me this lesson today because I thought I was just telling non-truths.
Yeah.
And it depends on what lineage of Buddhism you ask and determines that. But my man didn't answer the phone call to His Holiness and then lied to him about it.
When you've done as much meditation as he has, or if you've done enough psychedelics to understand, like, it all just falls away at some point. All of these things, of course, it all matters, and it's all just like it's all just a show we're watching in some respect.
You're
You
right.
know,
There's a line that's a really good line that is a Tibetan Buddhist says about human existence, about this realm we live in. The bad news is you're falling through space. Like falling fast, rapidly. You're falling. The good news is there's no ground.
yeah.
And that's precisely how everything feels now. Mushrooms got me there. And then the meditation and the Buddhism and reading the Upanishads gave me words for it. And then I could actualize it and go into the world with it finally. But they worked together in that way.
I'm reminded of, do you remember when we went back inside and ate soup?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, it was so good.
One of the things I'm struck by about
I have an
psychedelics.
impression of you, by the way, for that.
Yeah, okay, good.
We'll continue.
One of the things I'm really like taken with is that there is no ability to multitask. There's no desire
Oh, yeah.
to
You're right.
multitask
Yeah,
when you're in this phase. I don't know.
You're
this
right.
world.
Oh my God, good point. Yeah.
I remember the first time when it's finally I got hungry after a while. I was having deep conversation with my friend and I said, wait, hold on. I need to eat this cracker. And then I just ate the cracker so slowly because it felt like a sacrilege to eat this cracker while I was talking to her. I wanted to enjoy the conversation and I wanted to enjoy this cracker. And so we just like paused and I just like ate a couple of crackers and just enjoyed the heck out of them. And then it was like, okay, let's go back to that because there's more time. There's more space than we think. There's more time you say this all the time. Nothing is urgent. We don't have to rush it. I still am guilty of doing this all the time. I'm multitasking all the time.
And so do I as well. It's just, over time it goes away. It's what we do as humans, but it's a nice little reminder of like, it's not urgent.
Let me just enjoy this cracker. So when you and I were together, we went and had some soup. And my God, was it the best soup either of us have ever had in our entire lives. But what I remember about that is that I was looking at you. And then the whole time before that, we were looking out at nature and we were kind of like talking, but we were looking out at the world. And then we were kind of coming down. So it was a little less intense. And we were just going and talking and talking. And I just found myself staring at you. Actually, I wanted you to eat the soup.
That's
and
right.
I didn't want to eat the soup yet because I wanted you to enjoy the soup, but I wanted to enjoy you eating the soup before. I didn't want to do it at the same time. I didn't even want to multitask that. So I am just watching you eat the soup and enjoying the fuck out of it. And I'm just thinking, he is so beautiful. Like physically, yes. Like all the things we know, you're a gorgeous man. But it was like your humanness was beautiful. Your eyes were lit up. You were enjoying this thing that was so beautiful. I understood your perspective on the world so much better when I did this trip with you because you see a lot of this in the world. You keep a lot of this with you in the world.
It's the gift shop for me. Wherever I am, I just try to take something with me into my regular world. It's like going to the gift shop before you leave the place.
But you're exceptionally good at that. Thanks. I mean, what our kid does looking out the window at the world, you do that every day too. You stand in the sun and you receive it and you have wonder. And so I understood you so much better doing this. And when I looked at you and I saw your beauty, I went, oh, this is how he sees me.
That's right.
Because you tell me all the time, but prefrontal cortex is like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to believe what my inside believe, like my internal
Mm,
subconscious believes.
all the stuff you've been told growing up and whatnot. Yeah.
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 I suddenly turned that around. I was like, oh, wow, how I'm seeing him right now is how he sees me. And that's how I could see me too.
It's beyond beautiful from an aesthetic standpoint.
Yeah.
There's a deep, blissful beauty that's there.
Mhm.
There's a deep, sublime beauty. That's what I'm typically talking about.
Mhm.
I have to live in this world, and so I use the words that we all know,
Mhm.
right? But if I could, I would use words like sublime beauty, or I would say there are no. I can't even do it.
Right.
I'd be here all day trying to say one particular phrase, and then how I go about the world every day is with that. Gift shopping those things. You made a really good point, by the way, about maybe not ever doing it again, or maybe
Mhm.
reminding me that in addition to all of these other cool benefits and all these other things that we're seeing that's been fascinating about it, is that other substances outside of the psychedelics, pot, coke, meth, alcohol, whatever, they are all dopamine activators. They give you dopamine, which is an addictive chemical, which we've talked about in our previous
Yeah.
episode for screen time. Mushrooms, psychedelics, but particularly mushrooms and DMT, they just activate your serotonin receptors.
Mhm.
Doesn't give you serotonin. It makes you make more serotonin.
Mm.
And serotonin is a non addictive compound.
Oh, cool.
So not
Yeah.
only are you getting this revelation, but the next day it's not like, I need more. I
Mhm.
need more. It's not that.
Mhm.
So on average, majority of people don't have the desire to want to do it again. They don't have the desire to need to do it again, I
Mhm.
should say. And that is a life hack, my
Mhm.
friend,
Mhm.
because this whole society wants us to keep coming back.
Right.
But the famous line for psychedelics is once you got the message, hang up the phone.
Mm.
Hang up the phone. Why are you
Mhm.
on that call still?
Mhm. I call psychedelics a remembering
Mm.
because nothing that I learned was actually new. I felt like I just am remembering something that I forgot.
That's precious.
It feels to me the closest I can get to actually crossing over into the beyond
Mm-hmm.
and coming back. When you say ego death, it's a similar experience when people say, I had a near death experience, right? They could see the beyond and then they go, oh, right, this is how this is.
So many of them don't even want to come back
Mhm.
because it felt so good
Mhm.
wherever they were.
And I do believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
That is probably the fundamental belief that I have spiritually. And to experience something that seems new, but to remember it all
Oh gosh.
is wild and wacky for our human
Yeah.
brains.
Anybody listening to this right now who is not familiar with this, they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Exactly.
And the funniest part
Two
is that,
hippies just
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about
But
mushrooms.
there are people who haven't even done mushrooms who've just meditated or
Yeah.
just had an awakening of a near death experience, and they're like, "I get it. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
We separate so much. We don't need to separate it. They
Yeah.
are a part of the same thing."
Uh-huh. And there are people, I think there are magical people in this world who didn't really get the whole society is putting their all these constraints on them. And they are adults who still operate with this childlike
Yeah,
freedom.
you're
And I
right.
don't even know how they get it.
I would call them creatives,
Yeah.
artists
Well,
in the
yeah.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just like, I'm stabbing my fingers because it's like they're just jumping from one thing to the next. Like it's all good.
Mm.
It's all good. I have a friend who trusts her intuition so deeply that she will wake up one day and go, I don't need to be in this city anymore. Let's go. And she and her husband just the next day fly somewhere else and be like, okay, we're here now. We're in
Yeah.
Thailand now.
Yeah.
We're just gonna make this work because I don't know, my intuition said that. She has that childlike freedom. Everybody has their own way of getting there, the people who found it. And I think
Right.
some people just never lost it.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. We have to remind ourselves how much of these things that we've kind of put in this society to keep us safe and calm and certain and familiar and again, all beautiful. But the payoff for that, the sacrifice that you're spending, the money you're spending, the currency you're spending of that is the forgetfulness of the lack of separation.
Yeah.
In my opinion, metaphorically speaking, that's what the Garden of Eden is in Christianity. That's what Jesus is saying as well. That's what Moses is saying in the Old Testament. That's what Rumi is saying. That's what the Buddha is saying. That is what Vishnu is saying. And every one of these practices they're saying is a going back to the understanding of the non-two-ness of this society, of this world, of this being, because you are more than that. You are an awareness. You are not the body. You are awareness.
When you see a meme or a quote on Instagram and you're like, God, yeah, that resonates for me. What is that? It's probably by a poet. It's probably by,
Right. Like
Rumi or something. And that's what we're talking about. Even if you've never done psychedelics before and never intend to, it's that like, oh, that makes so much sense and it feels comfortable in my body. And I don't feel that way all the time, but I want to be like that.
Yeah.
I want to understand the world in that level. There's something that you remember about that when you see that and you're like, I'm saving this.
Right.
I'm saving this post and coming back to it because there's something there for me.
Truly. They're all vehicles. That's the real note. Is the rake is a vehicle to get the leaves out, and so is a leaf blower, and then so is poetry, so is music. So they're all vehicles to the same sense of awe in the world. The Upanishads say the moment that you recognize, you feel in awe of a mountain or an ocean or a breeze, you are one in that moment with Brahma. And Brahma for them is the ultimate source of all of this. Every single thing is just a vehicle of us getting there. That's why the line from Ram Dass, we're all walking each other home, is so important. I think that's why The Wizard of Oz is still so relevant with things like Wicked as well, because we're finding out that where you think you're supposed to go to get the thing isn't there. It's right where you've been this whole time. Home is where the heart is. There's no place like home. There's no place like home is where the heart is. And I think mushrooms are kind of an expediter to get you there a little quicker than that, if done right, because I never plan on doing them for parties and hanging out. And it was always, I'm going to do these and figure this out. Even when I was in a gang, about a year later after taking those mushrooms, I joined a gang. And I still was dipping out by myself and doing mushrooms to try to understand what is this? And I just couldn't explain it in words. I definitely couldn't explain it to anybody around me. But it was only until I was about 17 or so is when it started to click for me. And I started understanding it at a deep level that when I would think about it, it would make me giggle. And still couldn't put words to it. But it didn't ever leave me after that. I found Jung after that. I started reading about archetypes after that, and I started writing music, and it just started to make more sense for me. And now we come to this point in my life where if you want to do mushrooms, I'll do them with you. But on my own accord, I don't feel the necessity for it. And this is not a space of bragging. It's a space of a realization. I got the message. Hang the phone up. Hung that phone right up. And now I can just go along with this message. Where I am, wherever I stand, is the sublime beauty, is the bliss.
It's right here. What is it? I wrote it down. This here is everything.
This here is everything.
I appreciate you for sharing your story with us and for going on that journey with me, because I'll remember it for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. I love doing any and everything with my best friend.
Well, thank you for listening to Beauty in the Break, the psychedelic episode.
Psychedelic. I need my wah pedal. Get my guitar over there and start playing. Well, as usual, please be kind to yourself.
If this episode spoke to you, take a moment and send it to someone else who might need it. That's the best way to spread these conversations to the people who need them the most. And if you want to keep exploring with us, make sure to follow Beauty in the Break wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.
Beauty in the Break is created and hosted by Foster Wilson and Cesar Cardona. Our executive producer is Glenn Milley. Original music by Cesar and the Clue.